What's up guys, and welcome back to round number 8 of my F1 at 2020. My team career, driving with the Mugen-Honda team as Jensen Button. And well, we are off the back of a pretty special Monaco race yesterday. And we came so close, so close to those elusive points. Check it out if you haven't already in the top right corner, because it was a good race, even though I've already spoiled what happened. But yeah. We've had two 11th place finishes in a row now. Hopefully we can go one step further today. And yeah, if you're enjoying this series still, do make sure to leave a like down below. It really does help me out. And subscribe to get notified every time I upload one of these. So getting straight into proceedings today, we've got a decent number of resource points left from last time out. So we've decided to go for a chassis upgrade because as you can see on the development chart, starting to fall behind some of the midfield teams because we've decided to just upgrade the power unit so much. But there you can see what the upgrades that we've got coming. Both, I think, are due to be fitted on the car in ready for round 10 at Paul Ricard for the French Grand Prix. And for the first time, I'm just going to show you guys what the financial history is looking like. I don't think I've shown this before, but yeah, you can see we're by far got the most amount of money that we have at any point in the season. You can see that contract period in the middle of July. We've got to make sure that we have about 2 million saved, I think it is, for Matsushita if we want to keep hold of him. But in the meantime, we can make some upgrades. So we've chosen to upgrade our aerodynamics facility, seeing as we'll probably be doing quite a few aero upgrades in the future. Obviously, we've started off the series sort of trying to get the power unit up to standard. But yeah, decided to go to improve the build time of the aero parts, which means they should be fitted on the car in less amount of time, and sort of encourages us to do some aero upgrades. Now the gap between Monaco and Azerbaijan, as it has been in the last few races, is 2 weeks, which means that we've got a decent bit of time to fill. So decided to keep the sponsors happy by doing some advertisement for 4 days. That gets our acclaim up and also gives us a bit of cash. Decided to go for a power equipment upgrade, which will improve the powertrain morale and do some weight training to get Matsushita's pace up. So yeah, a little bit of a balancing act this time round. Now our power unit is looking a little bit tired after Monaco. Of course, Monaco you don't really need a great power output, so I fitted an old power unit. But Azerbaijan, longest straight I think in F1. So yeah, we need a fresh engine or else it is going to be curtains for us. So yeah, literally taken a new one of everything. We don't incur any penalties, which is good because we've still got them remaining. And we also get to take a new gearbox, seeing as we used the last one for 6 events. So that's the housekeeping done, and you can see now simulating through the time, we've got 2 upgrades on the car, so a chassis and a durability upgrade. So they'll be on the car for this race, and everything else sort of went through without any issue. And yeah, looking all set for hopefully a good race at Baku. Judging by the weather forecast, it's looking like it is going to stay dry for the weekend with some sunshine during the race. Obviously, I've shown you the R&D progress so far, but that's what it looks like on the tree. We've actually slipped behind Alfa Romeo as well as Alfa Tauri. And Haas look as if they've brought a big upgrade as well. But yeah, I mean, we're bringing upgrades to the car as quickly as possible. So good to see that on this year's game, the AI are able to bring a lot of good upgrades as well as myself. And finally, before we get out on track, just taking a look at our rivalry with Pierre Gasly, which is going pretty well, 26 to 19, and it's first to 30. So if we can have a good race this weekend, we should finish the rivalry with Gasly and yeah, get some good amounts of acclaim for that as well. So getting out onto the track for the first practice session in a sunny Azerbaijan on the Caspian Sea. And yeah, the track acclimatization program was sort of helping us get dialed into the racetrack, but I was struggling really to carry a lot of speed through the corners in this practice session. So yeah, I don't know whether the track's been reprofiled compared to previous games, but yeah, it just seemed a little bit difficult to really get used to it. And it's also a track which I do struggle with driving without the racing line, because there's a lot of braking zones that are sort of in the shade, in the shadows. So yeah, this is an example of it in the tyre wear program, just completely missing our braking point and having to go down the escape road and almost doing a Ragunathan, if you know, you know, from 2019 where he got stuck down one of those escape roads. But yeah, we managed to get dialed in, and in the race strategy program, we were doing it all right. You can see we're only 2/10 up on the delta coming out of the final proper corner, really, on the track, or the final braking zone at turn 16. But as we go on to this massive straight, look at that, we're already like minus a second on the delta, goes minus 1.1, 1.2, and that just shows the progress that we've made with this Honda engine. Because, yeah, we've got some really, really good straight line speed now. And, yeah, we did well in the race strategy program, and it allowed us to accumulate 1,100 resource points in total, with Matsushita, to be fair, bringing some home as well. And all that meant that we could afford another upgrade, this time to the aerodynamic. So obviously we upgraded the facility, meaning that it can be with us before the French Grand Prix. And yeah, looking forward to having that on the car for round 10. Oh, Jeff, you've let me down, mate. You have let me down. You told me it'd be dry all weekend, and we are greeted with intermediate conditions in Q1. And coming across the line for our first time, we are way off the pace that had been set. Yeah, we were just really, really struggling. Obviously, we had a dry setup on the car as well, because it's going to be dry in the race. But it was just a case, really, of staying out on the track and watching the track evolve, really. A little bit like the Austrian Grand Prix, or sorry, the Styrian Grand Prix qualifying this weekend. Obviously in qualifying you had a lot of drivers stay out there and wait for the track to evolve, and you can see 1.1 seconds quicker on our second tour round, and that still meant that we were the last of anyone that had set a time. But fortunately we managed to get into the pits, fill up with fuel, and get one final run out on the track, and you can see visibly that the track is a lot drier than it was at the start of the session, and we'd fallen all the way down to 21st place, and that's with the first sector that really didn't look like it was any better than what we previously set. But in the traction zone there, out of turn 6 I think it is, we gained a load of time, and yeah, through the middle sector, a second up on our delta, and as we get back on the power through turn 16, we managed to preserve that up towards the line, and that put us, I believe, in P12 in Q1. So we were just on the track at the right time, on the right tyres at the right time. And unfortunately, Matsushita couldn't do the same. He was just 1/10 of a second away from displacing Esteban Ocon at the end of the session. But unfortunately, he'll be lining up from P19. And then we got into Q2. So the second consecutive race, I think, in fact, no, third consecutive race that we've got through to Q2. A bit of a mouthful, that is, through to Q2. But yeah, fortunately it dried up, I say, as I nearly bin it in the wall. But yeah, it was dry enough for the the soft tyres. But yeah, really struggling for grip. You can see there, going into turn 1 on our first flying lap, it's still a bit damp out on the track, and it's obviously very green, meaning that there's not really any rubber on the track. And as a result of that, yeah, we just really couldn't hook up a lap early on. But we come now across the line towards the end of the session to start our final lap of Q2. Unfortunately, we didn't time it brilliantly, so a lap around here takes about 1 minute 46. Our last lap took us, and we crossed the line with 1 minute 40 remaining, meaning that we may not get the best of the track. But through turn 1, we're pretty tidy through there, nearly 4/10 up on our previous best, braking along the zebra crossing into turn 2, getting it straightened up and back on at the DRS. Now there's no shadows on the straight this time for us to miss our braking point, so I picked a tree actually just between the 100 and 150 metre board to brake at that corner, and the 90-degree corners continue at turn 4 before we plunge into sector 2. You can see we're 1.7 seconds quicker than our previous best time, just showing how important this track evolution is. And I'm thinking at this point, obviously I'm on a good lap, but would it have been better leaving it another minute and, you know, obviously getting the track in its even drier state. But now we are 3.3 seconds, 3.4 seconds quicker than our previous best time as we get on the power now out on the exit of turn 12. This quite an interesting run now down to turn 15 through a couple of left-handers and struggling to pick our braking point there as we take the esports line over turn 15, mounting the curb quite considerably. 4.0 seconds quicker than our previous best in the middle sector. And as we come towards the line, we're going to comfortably be in the top 10, that's for sure. But the question is, will we be displaced after we come across the line? Grosjean sets a 141.7. We're going to be probably quite similar to that lap time, as Bottas now sets a 39.8. The times are tumbling, and we come across the line 4.6 seconds quicker than our previous best. But it's only P16, would you believe it? Meaning that we are last in Q2. Wow, that was disappointing. That was really, really disappointing. You can see there 2.1 seconds off the quickest time and 9/10 of a second off making it through into Q3. And unfortunately, we also finished behind our rival, Pierre Gasly, meaning that he gets a point over on us for that. But yeah, still leading the rivalry, and hopefully we can make it up during the race.
Good afternoon and welcome to Baku. This was the arena, if you think back to 2017, of one of the most eventful races of modern history, with controversy behind the safety car, last-second overtakes, and a historic podium for Williams and for Lance Stroll. Before we begin, let's take a quick look at the grid lineup for today's race. Lewis Hamilton lines up on pole position, and Valtteri Bottas will line up alongside. Considering the rest of the grid, we have Vettel, Leclerc, Max Verstappen and Perez, Albon, Stroll, Norris and Esteban Ocon, Giovinazzi, Ricciardo, Carlos Sainz and Grosjean, Buchan, Raikkonen, Daniel Kvyat and Nobuharu Matsushita. Magnussen, Latifi, Gasly, they've taken a grid penalty, and George Russell ends our grid lineup. It's almost time for the lights to go out, so let's head down to the track and get this Grand Prix underway.
So it's a new day here in Baku. The sun is out, we can put qualifying behind us, and looking at the race strategy, we've been suggested the alternate strategy. So starting off on the medium compound and then going on to the soft. So we're going to try that for the first time this season. And now we go on to the formation lap where it's a Mercedes 1-2 who'll be leading the pack away this afternoon. And they got their first victory last time out, the Mercedes, after 6 Ferrari victories in a row. But Lewis Hamilton really closing in on Charles Leclerc now, just 3 points behind him in the drivers' standings, with Vettel and Bottas in behind those two. Ferrari leading the way in the constructors. Unfortunately, we are yet to score, meaning that we are in P9. But yeah, it's going to be difficult to score points this afternoon, but we're going to give it a good go. We looked quick in practice. Can we do the same today? Starting from P15 on the medium tyres, and it's lights out and away we go. It's a poor start from Romain Grosjean, and Carlos Sainz gets stuck behind Daniel Ricciardo, which gives us 2 positions straight off the line. We brake late going into turn 1, and we've gone all the way around the outside of about 5 cars, and we are now running side by side with Ocon and Raikkonen into turn 2, but we have to cop out of that one. But we get ahead of Antonio Giovinazzi as well, so we just drove clean around the outside of him and Daniel Ricciardo and Carlos Sainz and Romain Grosjean. So a brilliant start, and we are up to P12 in this race. But Kimi Raikkonen as well has just sort of come out of nowhere and is now battling with Esteban Ocon. They're side by side, but Raikkonen just about manages to edge in front for the meantime as Ocon tucks in behind him as they go into turn 5. And now into the middle section of this track where overtaking is extremely difficult. So we're on the run down to turn 7. We have a little inside front lock up there. And to be honest, we were really struggling to get these medium tyres into the temperature zone at this point of the race. You're really understeering there into turn 11. But we managed to get all right purchase off turn 12 using the overtake button, just to make sure that Giovinazzi doesn't take a look at us. But he is very, very close. But he's going to stick behind into turn 15, and we stay in P12 for the meantime. But going on to lap 2, once again we have a similar issue into turn 7. just really struggling to get these tyres working. And we're now 2.2 seconds behind Esteban Ocon and just 2/10 in front of Antonio Giovinazzi. So, yeah, I don't know, maybe this medium-soft strategy not quite working at the moment, but we're going to have to weather the storm, but it's going to be very difficult to do so because Giovinazzi's going down the inside of us at turn 15. He mounts the curb. It's a bit of a messy overtake from the Italian, but he does manage to get the move done nonetheless. We'll take a look at a replay of it in a minute. But as we now come out onto the main straight, it's only lap 2, so there's going to be no DRS active, and we actually use the overtake button just to try and stay close to Giovinazzi, who doesn't get a particularly good run through turn 19 or turn 20. I never know which one that last corner is, but even so, we are very close to the Italian. Can we go all the way around the outside of him as we go purple through the final sector? Well, what a move that would be, all the way around the outside of Giovinazzi. We're going to be side by side with him, but it looks as if he's just carrying a little bit more speed, and now Carlos Sainz is getting involved in the action. We can't be having that. We can't be overtaken by him as well. But fortunately, we get the DRS due to the fact that we were behind Giovinazzi, and that just about sees us clear from Carlos Sainz, seeing as his Renault engine isn't quite as powerful as our Honda one. So now we wind into the middle sector. That gives us a good chance to have a look at this overtake from Giovinazzi. So he was carrying an insane amount of pace, and then down into turn 15 of all places, he decides to go down the inside and just sort of mounts the curb and tries to get past. So we have a look here on board with Carlos Sainz, what it looked like. It was a bit of a clumsy move, to be honest, from Giovinazzi, but yeah, I gave him the space, and he was quicker than us. And yeah, he's really made that pay, because we fast forward one lap, and we're actually out of DRS range by the looks of it. Although we do get a good run through turn 19, it's not quite good enough, because we are 1.0 seconds behind Antonio Giovinazzi. And Carlos Sainz just 0.6 of a second behind us, meaning that we're probably going to have to be looking in our mirrors rather than looking ahead at this stage of the Grand Prix. And now we go into the middle sector of lap 4. We've got some yellow flags behind, and it looks as if it's an Alpha Tauri that has retired. And I can tell you the Alpha Tauri is Pierre Gasly, our rival. And it'll come up on screen in a minute. Pierre Gasly is out of the session. So providing we finish this race, it looks as if we are going to win that rivalry against the Frenchman, which is brilliant news for us. And yeah, now we go on to lap 4, or later on in lap 4 I should say. Carlos Sainz is looking very good at this stage of the race. We've got a few cars in the pit lane fitting the medium compound of tyre. So they really haven't taken their softs long. But yeah, these mediums, struggling to get them switched on still. So I'd like to do as many laps as possible on those soft tyres. So a little bit concerning that the others are coming in so early. But yeah, we'll take a look and see what Giovinazzi and Raikkonen do ahead. Fortunately, yeah, Sainz didn't have a look at us at all in either of the DRS zones, and we didn't really have to go for any sort of defensive lines, which is testament to how far this Honda engine has come. Fast forwarding now into the start of lap 6, a few more cars are in the pit lane, but Giovinazzi and Raikkonen are staying out on their soft tyres, and they don't really seem to be losing any pace, which means that one of them will be doing more than half a race distance on the soft tyres unless they go for a double stack at the end of lap 6. So yeah, that got me thinking, you know, we can probably do a decent number of laps on the soft tyres, and this car, it just seems much better hooked up with the soft compound. So yeah, sure enough, we come into the pits at the end of lap 6, and we are going to be doing 7 out of the 13 laps on the softer compound of tyre. There you can see Lance Stroll coming into the pits. Sorry, not Lance Stroll. It was Kimi Raikkonen, I believe, or maybe it was Lance Stroll that was coming in as well for Racing Point. But we emerged from the pit lane, decent enough pit stop. And yeah, it gets us out behind Kimi Raikkonen and currently in P17, ahead of Romain Grosjean and George Russell, who have already pitted. So at this point, it's just hammer down. It really is hammer down. We're 1.6 seconds behind Kimi Raikkonen. He is on the slower, harder, more durable compound of tyre than us. So if we are going to try and close in on him and try and overtake him, we're going to have to make the move sooner rather than later. because I think as we get towards the end of the Grand Prix, those medium tyres will probably be performing better than this soft compound that we've got bolted on. But it's a brilliant first sector from ourselves, and we're already within a second of Kimi Raikkonen, who, like myself at the start of the Grand Prix, is just struggling to get those tyres switched on. Looking further up the field, you can see the one remaining AlphaTauri of Daniel Kvyat is still out, and he is on the hard compound of tyre, but he is really holding up Sebastian Vettel by the looks of it. Matsushita, who's yet to pit, is holding up the Racing Point of Sergio Perez, the two Red Bulls, and some more cars, all of which are in the battle with ourselves for points. So, yeah, it looks as if Lance Stroll, you can just about see his dot on the mini-map in the bottom left. He is at the back of that train, and if those cars can stay out for a few more laps, that would be fantastic, because it'd give us a great opportunity to close up to them. But talking of closing up, we are really closing up to Kimi Raikkonen in at the Alfa Romeo. He ducks to the inside as we go purple through Sector 3, meaning we have got a lot of pace in at this Honda engine. We go clean round the outside of Kimi Raikkonen, and we emerge ahead of Carlos Sainz as well, who stayed out a lot longer. And behind Sainz is Antonio Giovinazzi. So we've managed to gain a good couple of positions in that pit phase. So on both of the Alfa Romeos we've managed to gain, and we've also gained a little bit of time on Carlos Sainz, although of course we were already ahead of him on track. Now you can see our teammate Nobuharu Matsushita peels into the pits along with the AlphaTauri of Daniel Kvyat, which releases the cars ahead. But a brilliant lap for ourselves, which included a purple sector too, means that we are closing in quickly on the group of cars ahead. Lance Stroll is sat in P10, and we are just one position away from a points finish. Now we've had two P11s in a row. Can this be the race where we break that and actually manage to finish a little bit higher? It would be so agonising if we couldn't pull off an overtake in the final 4 laps of this Grand Prix. But it's only 2.2 seconds to catch Stroll up ahead, who is on the medium compound of tyre, whereas we, of course, are on the softs. But Carlos Sainz, who's 2.4 seconds behind us, is also on the soft tyres. And, of course, that McLaren is pretty quick. But as we come through this middle sector, we've whittled that gap up ahead down to 1.5 seconds already on lap 9 of the Grand Prix. And I tell you what, we are in for a tasty finale here at Baku. I can't wait to see how it unfolds. But coming towards the end of lap 9, you can see Lance Stroll is going for a move on Lando Norris by the looks of it, as the two of them pretty much side by side into the first corner. Norris goes to the inside, Stroll to the outside. So Stroll's going to have a very difficult time to hang it round the outside of turn 2, and they collide by the looks of it. Norris gets his tail out, but just about keeps it pointed in the right direction. But that has compromised his line by the looks of things into turn 3. And we are really close to the two of them now. Just 0.6 of a second is all that separates ourselves and the Honda team from our first points in the sport. I can't wait for these final few laps. And we're now just 0.7 of a second away from Lando Norris as we get towards the DRS zone on lap 10 of this Grand Prix. We activate the DRS, but unfortunately you can see on the mini-map everyone's so close to each other. It's so difficult to make any sort of gains on the straights. So maybe we're just going to have to pray for a mistake from Norris or him falling out of the DRS of Stroll. Yeah, that McLaren car isn't slow enough for us to just breeze past him when both of us have DRS. And of course it's pretty handy in the middle sector as well, with it being a McLaren. Although, as we go on now to the end of lap 11, it doesn't seem to have had a particularly good middle sector on lap 11 of the Grand Prix, because Norris is now 1.5 seconds behind Lance Stroll in P9, meaning that he is not going to have DRS on the run out of turn 20 and on the pit straight, and we are closing in on the Renault-powered McLaren car, and we breeze past and up into P10 we go, into the points. And for the first time this season, we are in the points on merit alone. Forget pit stops or, positions that we've gained without pitting. This is on pure pace. We are in P10 and with just over 1 lap to go. It looks as if Esteban Ocon for not the first time this season, is the cork in the bottle. And he is currently in P7 and is sort of holding up the cars just in front of me up nicely. So Alex Albon and Lance Stroll are both stuck behind the Renault car. And we are just within a second of that racing point of Lance Stroll, which means that we get DRS coming onto the final lap of this race, which means that we've survived from Carlos Sainz behind, but also we've managed to close up ahead as well. And if these three can have a little battle on the final lap of the Grand Prix, that would be brilliant. If they could take each other out, that would be even better. But yeah, just so long as they sort of have a bit of a jostle and we can close up to them, and who knows, we may be able to make a move on the run to the line. But now braking at turn 3. This is the part of the track where the soft tyres are really at an advantage compared to the medium compound. You saw Giovinazzi do it in the first stint when he was on the softs and I was on the mediums. Hopefully we can get close to the cars ahead at the end of the race and think about making a move on the run to the line. We're now just 0.7 of a second behind Lance Stroll as we go towards the castle section for the final time in this Grand Prix. Alex Albon looks so frustrated behind Esteban Ocon, and why wouldn't he be? His teammates is a little bit up the road, but it hasn't been a brilliant race for Red Bull by the looks of things, because by the looks of things on the minimap, Sergio Perez is ahead of Max Verstappen. But now concentrating on our own battle, the gap to Lance Stroll is about 0.8 of a second, so it's going to be very, very difficult to make a move on the run to the line. But it's going to be interesting to see what unfolds in front of us. We've got Carlos Sainz just 0.8 of a second behind us as Valtteri Bottas comes home to win his first race of the season, and we now come through turn 19. Oh, Lance Stroll has got a bit of a tank slapper through there. He's almost lost the rear end, and that is going to put us within range, maybe, as we see, we're just going to run out of ERS by the looks of things. And as we come towards the line, we don't quite get P9, but forget about that. We score our first points in this series. P10, get in there, come on. And we get driver of the day to boot as well. And well, what a race that was. And talking of what a race, this was the run to the line and the battle for P2. So between the two championship contenders, Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc. Leclerc gets so close to overtaking Hamilton, but the line just comes up in time. But there was neither of them could stop that man, Valtteri Bottas, from winning the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. His first win of the season, Mercedes second, and second in a row. Good for them.
So after a magnificent race, we can now see the drivers making their way to the podium. Once again, it's the Silver Arrows who take top spot. A well-earned victory for Mercedes.
It was very well-earned indeed. A 1-2 for them, which puts them firmly in contention for the Constructors' title. Ferrari had a great start to the season, but yeah, Mercedes really starting to come back into it in this middle part of the season. And as we take a look at the full race standings, it was a Mercedes 1-2, Ferrari 3-4, Racing Point of Sergio Perez in P5. I mean, he is the master of Baku. I think the last career mode that I did on this channel, Perez nearly ended up winning at Baku. So he's obviously coded to do pretty well around this circuit. But all importantly is that P10 spot. 1 point goes to Jenson Button and the Mugen-Honda team. Fantastic stuff. Matsushita unfortunately could only manage P18, but yeah, that doesn't matter. That does not matter because we get the points. AlphaTauri didn't score any, which means we move or stay above them in the standings. And Charles Leclerc just a 1 point lead over Lewis Hamilton now in the standings. We don't care about that. We care about that. P15 for Jenson Button and P17 for Pierre Gasly and the AlphaTauri with Kvyat as well not getting off the mark, which keeps us in P9, but it gets that point on the board, gets our confidence up, and hopefully we can score more in races to come. There's just 17 points separating Ferrari and Mercedes at the top, and this series is really hotting up now. So yeah, hopefully guys, you have enjoyed this race, and finally, we've done it. We've got points, so leave a like if you did enjoy it, and subscribe if you're new around here. But yeah, until the next race, which I believe is in Canada, I'll see you guys then. Bye-bye.